Hello and welcome to Hollywood Knitter. My name is Allison and I'm recording on Friday, October 28th, 2022 from my home in Los Angeles, California. How's everybody doing? It is October and I love October because, well, it's the beginning of fall. In New England, it's when the leaves change, which is my favorite. And it happens to be the month my birthday's in. My birthday is on Halloween. Hence, if anyone has seen me on Instagram or wherever, my handle is Allison1031, because you know, back when you came up with those, that's what you did. But I will be turning 46, and normally I try to go do something for my birthday out of town, but this year, because of the sports team, the MLS soccer team, the LA football club that we follow, is in the playoffs. And I had, because I am a planner, I had looked ahead and knew that if they continued to make it, the semifinal game would be on Sunday, the 30th. So I didn't make plans because that would not be fair. That would not be fair to the boyfriend who is a season ticket holder since the beginning. And lo and behold, they did make it through. They're in the semifinals. So that is what we will be doing on Sunday. So instead, I'm kind of having just a weekend of me. Today's Friday and I took it, well, it's my normal Friday off, but the last year and a half, I've been working pretty much every one of my regular days off and doing OT. But today, or this weekend, I said no OT, and I took my birthday itself off, which is Monday. So I am having 4 days of me time. Today is probably the only day I'm going to be home alone, though, so that's nice. So I thought I would take this opportunity to get a podcast out there. I've been thinking I wanted to catch up on some stuff, show you some things, you know, all the normal podcast stuff. Tomorrow we'll be chilling. Sunday is a soccer game, which it's a noon game, so that pretty much blows the entire day. And then Monday is my birthday. I plan on kind of coiling up on the couch, trying to be comfortable. Unfortunately, it's not super chilly in LA. It's in the mid-70s. Wish it were like, you know, 50s or 60s. But regardless, gonna stay in my PJs all day, chill, knit, and I've been saving until my birthday to watch Hocus Pocus 2. So that is my plan. I thought I'd be home alone originally, but now that the soccer game's on Sunday, he will take off Monday to recover because, yeah, a lot of partying. Hopefully they win. And if they win, they go to the finals, which I think is next weekend, the 5th or something. So we'll get tickets to that if they do it. One great thing about the LA Football Club had the best record, so all of these playoff games are at home for us. So that's why it's easy for us to go home. So that's kind of what's going on. It's a beautiful, you know, fall day for LA. It's mid-70s. But I have been doing some knitting and I have some acquisitions and some stuff to talk about. And yeah, so let's get started. Let's get started with FOs. I have 2 hats today to show. Both of these are charity hats. And I have a new charity I think I'm going to send it to. I'll talk to you about afterwards. The first one is a Scrappy Marl, my ever never-ending quest to use up all of my fingering scraps that I seem to just make more and more and more of. This is a Scrappy Marl by Beata Jezik. I started it in early September. It took me about 3 weeks to finish. It's fingering weight and lace weight held together. So kind of, I guess it's kind of hard to tell, but I had an orange lace weight. I think it was like Tempted, and I held that to kind of keep the orange kind of color throughout. It was like a orange and red lace. So this bottom one is actually a gray yarn I held it with. And then I think this was a 716 knit scrap I had. I'm trying to look and see. And then, yeah, I think these were both 716 knit. The top, this one, and this one. So there's 3 fingering weights, and then the lace is, the same lace is held throughout. So yeah, it made a great little beanie, and these are normally very much my colors, which is why I have so much orange in my stash. Ooh, it doesn't look good with my new haircut with my bangs there. Anyways, just a great little beanie. Will be nice and snug. I think it will be a great little charity hat. So I'll be sending that one off, even though I just don't need more hats. I already added 2 new hats to my stash this year. So this one will be going out, but loved it. It was very easy. Definitely would do it again for some scrappy. And yeah, I just made it up based on the weight when I had figuring and double together. The other one I finished was one of my Make Nines to use up some scrap yarn. So my Make Nines, if you remember, are the 9 projects I pick out from I pick out at the beginning of the year, January, New Year's, to use up yarns I have in my stash. And this is the Garter Snake Hat by Lavanya Petrilla? Oh my gosh, I'm butchering name. Anyways, the yarn is Capistrano Fiber Arts and then Stunning String in black. The Capistrano Fiber Arts is a 50 gram. I picked up, I don't even remember where I picked it up, a few years ago, in the pink, and then the black was just a Stunning String black that I had left over. And this is a brioche and kind of a, it's pretty cool actually. It was kind of slogging because it was fingering weight brioche, but it's a brioche that you slowly have this line, so this kind of line across, and then you just alternate and do this kind of thing. So this one is a little small, not small for me, but I have a big head, so it will fit a normal person pretty well. So yeah, so another charity knit. This one took, I don't know, 3 weeks to get. The only thing about this is where I was changing my yarns, I pulled a little. I didn't do a good job of pulling one from one to the next. So it's like I almost have an intentional line. You can see a few spots where I did better than others. I think I was pulling too tight when I was changing colors, and it created that. But I'm going to look at it as a design feature. It's like an intentional kind of line. But yeah, this is the Garter Snake Hat. It's a cute little one. It only takes, gosh, I think I used 50 grams total. So 35 of the pink and then like 15 of the black. Very easy to make longer if you wanted, more slouchy. And it does kind of, if you look at it, it kind of like biases a little because I think of the brioche, but when it's on, you can't really tell. And then, yeah. So another charity hat. And then the last thing I finished, which I forgot to take my sock blockers down, but that's okay. I started a pair of Halloween socks for me. I actually don't have a lot of Halloween socks, surprisingly enough. I have a lot of Halloween colored yarn, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to knit one of my skeins. And so I cast these on September 25th, and I finished them October 23rd. I did some travel unexpectedly, and so I actually knit on these a lot. So I just made up the pattern as toe up. I kind of just did kind of a broken rib, different size, 2 traveling ones going up just the front of the sock. Obviously you can tell I did this heel, I didn't do a different color, so you can see where it was gray and then it pulls and then it pulls differently. But the intent was I will wear these all snugly on my birthday. The yarn is Siren and Trick or Treat. And so total I used about 80 grams. I do have 2. And as I said, these were primarily, like the first sock took a little while and the second sock pretty much flew because I had it as a primary travel project when we went down to San Diego 2 weeks ago when the Padres were in the playoffs against the Dodgers. Though we didn't go see a game. It was a planned weekend away. It was a planned weekend away. And so the second sock, first sock I finished driving down, and then the second sock I actually cast on in a bar when we watched the game and got a bunch knit. So I just, yeah, it's amazing how much you can knit when you have a lot of time to knit and you make the time. Sometimes I don't always. Sometimes I get trapped into like games on my phone, wasting time and things like that. So yeah, so I'm calling those my Trixie socks. Those are my 3 FOs. Pretty happy. It was nice. It was a nice month. I think it's been about 4 to 6 weeks since my last podcast. So my big project though that I've been working on, lots of work on. I'm going to show it to you in my Fat Squirrel bag. And this is the Maima by Megan Nodecker, and I started this August 20th, and I was hoping to be done by now. This is a open cardigan in fingering weight yarn. I'm doing mine in Suburban Stitcher sock in the Oslo colorway, I think, that I picked up at ZK in 2021, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. it's hard to see, but it has another kind of waffle brioche, they call it. The entire back is done in that. That took forever. It was a slog, 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 slog. Not hard to memorize once you had it, but just, you know, fingering weight brioche slog. And then it's a twisted rib at the bottom. I have finished one sleeve. I actually just took the time to cast off this morning before I podcast. So I'm really liking it. The sleeves don't go all the way. You can kind of see they're kind of like mid-arm. What do you call that? I don't know. Anyways, and they're very big. There's a lot of room in these sleeves. That was actually a lot of people modified that in the pattern, and I thought about it. But I kind of like the look of how it was. And now that I've done the rib and I can kind of see how it goes where it's puffy and it's just, it'll be a great little, this is going to be a great cardigan for California. You know, so I have this uncovered so I don't get super hot. Great with a tee or a tank top. So I have one sleeve left. So I haven't even cast on. That's probably what I'll do today. The sleeve didn't take me too long. It took me about a week focusing on it. I mean, it's not a super long sleeve, obviously. It is a lot of stitches. It's like starting off 160, something like that. So it's pretty, there's a lot of stitches, and then it pretty quickly decreases. And then this was a little bit, I did a little bit of straight, and then the ribbing, 2 inches of ribbing. I was worried that I was going to be playing Yarn Chicken and had started to come up with some mitigations, but I measured what I had left after the sleeve, and I only made it the body about 1 inch longer. I made the sleeve about 1 inch longer than the pattern called for, and so I measured exactly what it took me to do the sleeve, and I think I'm going to be fine. So it took about 35 grams to do the straight sleeve, and I have like 80 left. So with that 35 down, I'll have about 40 or 45 to pick up and do. There's a, on the edging, there's just, you know, a little band. So I think it will be fine. So I'm super excited. I did alternate. You can kind of see, it wasn't too bad, but the whole top part, I didn't do any alternating. I guess you really can't see. That's great. Usually you can tell on the camera. I could see, or I thought I could see in person, but pretty much to right here is all one, and then I alternated here. Because I did notice one of mine had more darker, and you can kind of see there's more kind of dark spots in the body than there is. But overall, not super noticeable. And then I am alternating again on the sleeve too. It looks natural to me, the coloring. Obviously, it's hand-dyed yarn for Birds and Stitcher, so you're not guaranteed to get the same speckling, the same darkness. So it's great. I'm happy with the way I did it. I'm happy I'll be finished with it. My goal is to be finished with it before I go away on a trip in 2 weeks. So I got to focus on making this my primary project this week at home, probably this weekend, and get it done. The only other project, no, I shouldn't say that. I have my blanket, which I brought up to show you. The only other kind of project I have going is another pair of socks. I needed a pair of socks a few weeks ago when I went to one of the soccer games, kind of more of a mindless. So I cast on, like I normally do, a toe and picked up the socks. And this is another kind of Halloween-y colors. This is Nomadic Yarns and her, what is she called? Dark Baptism, maybe? Yeah, Dark Baptism, which is based on Sabrina the Teenage Witch from Netflix. I originally thought these were going to be for me, and this yellow is just a mini from my stash. But I think I'll make them for the boyfriend instead. He totally would wear these kind of stripes, and I thought I would love it a lot. Anyways, I'm making them for him. They're actually sparkly. It might be the first pair of sparkly socks I've made them. So anyways, doing my normal toe up. The only thing with switching to him is I was doing a 64 up until here. I'm actually doing a new thing because I have a height instep where instead of for my heel doing a gusset in a very short amount of time to go quickly, I'm actually doing, starting much further back on my foot and slowly kind of coming up to that gusset amount so that it's not so tight over the top of my foot. I did that on my other Halloween socks that I did for me, so we'll see how this goes. So this is where I've actually started the gussets, and I'm doing increasing every 4 rows. But as I said, I would normally, for him, I have to try them on to see if I can do them for him, because this was 64 stitches, and then obviously I'm creasing up. So I have to see if this kind of 64 tube will fit him. Normally I would do a 68 or sometimes even a 72 on the yarn. So I'll try these on him this weekend, and if they don't work, then I'll make them work for somebody else. But yeah, I love how Nomadic Yarn does her balls, her striping balls. She's on Etsy. If you've never ordered from her, she's great. She also is the one who does my cubes, my favorite sock bags, the cubes. Always looking in her shop for maybe a new kind of pattern that I like. This is in my cactus bag right now. I should put it in my Halloween bag, but I had a different pair in there. Yeah. So these are what I'm calling my Dark Baptism socks. And I will work on them probably for the next 2 weeks. I might need another pair of Mylon socks. And then the other thing, because I brought it up, because I'm recording upstairs, and last few times I haven't brought it, but my crocheted blanket of love. I had to bring the 2 balls that are attached to it. This is my Mossy Scrap Yarn Afghan, and here, let me find out where it is. There it is. There's the side. Oh, guys. Oh, I can't even like show you all of the awesomeness. So you can really see my kind of scheme here of what I've been kind of trying to do. So this is fingering weight held double, mostly minis and leftovers. In fact, all minis and leftovers. And I'm doing kind of an unofficial kind of striping where I'm holding, so here it's 2 light ones together, and then I do a light and a dark together, and then I do 2 darks together. And so it kind of creates this kind of striping effect. Now, I'm not 100% with like, you know, light and darks because yeah, it's not, some are lighter. I'm not like, you know, doing pictures. It's just kind of, I'm not being crazy about it, but I am trying to do it. And so you can see this kind of striping blanket. This is the side. You can see these are all my markers for every month. That's how I'm tracking my progress. So like, you know, this was this marker, that wasn't that much of a month. Then it was a big one. And then, so where's my marker? So here, this is how much I've done in October. I've been actually working quite a bit. And I only work on this usually on Sundays, so like scrappy Sundays. Occasionally I'll pull it out for some other work. It's not hard at all. I mean, it's going fast. So I think I'm up to, let's see, the end of last month, end of September, I was at 49 stitches, and I've at least done another, gosh, what have we done this month? Probably almost 9 inches. Maybe a little more. So what does that put me at? Like 58 inches? And I'm going to total of 72. So I might be able to finish this by the end of the year. I won't, you know, kick myself to do it. I'm wondering if I lost one there, because I can kind of see where it jumps. Sometimes it's hard to tell because some of the yarns are more bigger than others, but I might have, yeah. Anyways. Loving it. So awesome. I can't even tell you all of the mini skeins are in here, as I said. It's all my scraps, all other people's scraps that I've gotten for scrappy things from like Knockers Retreat and things like that. And I just kind of, sometimes I'll do it till if I have a small ball until it ends. In general, I try not to do more than say 2.5 to 3 stripes of the same color held in there. Sometimes I'll go longer if the next color really changes how it looks. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm gonna love this blanket. And I made it to fit my bed. So it will be perfect as an extra layering piece when I can put it on my bed. Probably in January, no later than January. And as soon as I said, I'm weaving in the ends. I try to every month, but definitely every 2 months. And so by the time I finish this, I'll have all the ends in. I'm debating if I'm going to do, I'll have to check if I'm going to do any kind of edging. I might, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to decide. I'm not 100% on that. And if I did, I would have to, you know, buy some yarn. Not that I'm averse to that. I've actually had some acquisitions too. And so yeah, these are the two little balls right now that I'm using. Yeah, these were both, I think these were Advents. This one was my Halloween Advent from last year from Lantern Lights, and I can't remember what this one was from. Anyways, but I got, oh, excuse me, I'm like going off to fix my blanket. Keep going off. But I have more minis because I got a Halloween Advent. So yeah, so that's all of my knitting projects that I'm working on. Let's talk about yarn acquisitions. Oh, I just lost my Evernote for some reason. Took all my notes this morning. All right, so I have done 2 shopping things on Etsy. One is I wanted a Halloween Advent. I really liked last year's. I think it was last year. I did Lantern Lights. So I just go into Etsy and I look Advent and see what comes up. And so I found this one. It's a fairly new dyer, very small kind of dyer. And her name is Musings of a Grateful Heart. But she just had, you know, and I think she called it an autumn Advent, kind of 13 countdown. And I'm just going to show you. She sent a package and she sent them all in these little bags. So I still have 11, 12, and 13 to open. Ooh, that one's going to be green, I can tell. She put these in these little bags. So I've already opened 10 of them and I've been putting them in my Halloween bag. Yeah, so great kind of Halloween autumn inspired colors. These are going to go into my blanket. These will be some of the darks that I've been looking for. Or I'll save some of the minis. Any of the solid minis I'm tending to kind of save, and anything that saves kind of me. So yeah, so it's been nice. I like just opening minis, and I do have a holiday Advent coming from Fiber Nymph. I only did one this year. At the same time that I picked that up, I got another skein called Ghost with the Most. I think it's inspired by Ghostbusters, which is one of my favorites. And her prices are super reasonable. So this is 100 grams, 437 yards of a sock yarn, so $75.25, and she only charged $19 for this. She's based out of Roanoke, Virginia. So yeah, it was just a random Etsy. I'll put the links down below. But yeah, check her out. She does kind of really cool, kind of inspired colorways, and obviously, you know, small scale, doing it from home. Doesn't have any labels or anything on it, which that was the only thing I was like, oh, no label. That means it will be hard for me to remember, but I'll have to go back. It's in my Ravelry, so if I ever have to figure out what this is, I'll have to kind of look at the picture and go back, because, you know. So that would be my only caveat. That's why I can say she's like a really new kind of dyer, because she doesn't even, you know, label her yarn. I remember way back when I first started knitting in 2003, like you used to get a lot more of those kind of, you know, yarn dyeing. Indie yarns were just kind of getting started and people doing it. And it was very much, you know, people doing it small scale, you know, at home, and you would buy it. And so they didn't necessarily have the branding and the labels and things like that. And kind of that's what this is. So check her out, Musings of a Grateful Heart. Then I needed some tried on tubing for my Emma, or whatever they're calling it. I didn't actually bring it up, but I wanted to get some of the knitting barber cords. I have some tried on tubing from a while ago when it used to be tried on tubing. And the tubing has gotten a little brittle-ish. I mean, I probably had it at least a decade, maybe longer. So I had seen that they were the new kind of colorful knitting barber cords, and they came in a cool little tin. Look at me, cool little tin. So I went to go find some, and I found an Etsy seller. She is Little Bean Loves Yarn, and she was selling the knitting barber, and she also did yarns. And she had some really cool, this cool kind of gradient marl yarn. These are one of a kinds, and it goes from blues to gray. The listing, you can see the progression. And I just picked it up. I just thought it was really cool. It's her everyday sock, and it's a 75-25, 463 yards, 2 matching skeins, so you can do the 2 matching. So yeah, these will be another pair of socks probably for a man in my life. But yeah, it was different. It was a very similar kind of I've seen some of these lately, like, who did I just see that kind of did one? Freya Knits had some Instagram posts where she did something similar. Never heard of this person. As I said, I didn't go there for the yarn. I went there for the Knitting Barber cords, but couldn't resist putting a skein of sock yarn. And then she's out of Massachusetts, which was another reason I had to support Marblehead, Massachusetts. So those were my acquisitions that I've done. As I said, I've been knitting so much on my AMA, and so I have been watching, well, I still am working. Crazy work, crazy hours, crazy, and not knitting as much at work. I have tried to start in some meetings making myself stop checking my email and knit so I can pay attention, but I'm not always great about that. So some days I don't actually take out my sock to knit on, and then some days I do. So, but we have been watching House of Dragons. We just finished watching the finale last night, last 2 episodes. I did not watch Game of Thrones when it came. I mean, I kind of did because he watched it, but I wasn't following it. I would catch an episode here and there. I did read the books. Haven't read the latest ones. He's so long, George Martin, in between, that I'm just waiting for him to like be done with the series, and then I'll reread everything. I prefer that than to waiting for books, especially if it's going to be multiple years between books. Also checking out Lord of the Rings, still loving it. I think we have the finale to watch. And what else have I been watching? Kind of my comfort kind of TV. So Call of the Midwife, which you say, how is that comfort? It is a little graphic. I do turn my eyes away from some of the babies being born and some of that things, but the stories are heartwarming. I love the characters. It's just heartwarming. There's never anything, I mean, it's very hard. People grew up poor and they did hard, but it's all about people helping people, and that's awesome. Murdoch's Mysteries, Grantchester, kind of any of those procedural kind of police shows. Those are my comfort kind of television. Especially, yeah, even like, what have I been, UK, the Law and Order UK version, which went off the air a few years ago, but I'm still kind of, every so often I'll throw one on. Movies, not so much. I'm trying to watch some Halloween movies this weekend. We watch a lot of Turner Classic movies, which means we see, just kind of whatever's on Turner Classic. So, this past week there must have been focusing on, blaxploitation films. So I saw some like Pam Grier films, Coffee, which I'd never seen. She is a badass in that movie. And then I did remember, you know, Jackie Brown, which was the first one, but she had done previous to that. And then just some other kind of movies on that. And then, yeah. And then some horror movies. I watched Hellraiser, the new Hellraiser with Goran. Used to be on, I think, what was he on? ER? Was he on ER? Anyways, it was good. I mean, I love me a good cheesy horror flick. And then I'm going to hopefully watch them this weekend. I love them. It is. And then I'll watch them in a few weeks when I go and see the family. Books I have been reading. Since the last podcast, I've read 11 books. I did slow down a little bit. Can't do it all. I do listen to audiobooks. I try to have an audiobook going on at the same time, depending on how it is though. Sometimes I'll get sucked into the audiobook above all else. Like, the good thing about an audiobook is you can do other things. So sometimes I will knit or clean or do other things. But I did want to talk about a new series that I found, and it's by Sherry Thomas, called Lady Sherlock's series. And it is a kind of take on Sherlock Holmes, but where Sherlock Holmes is a woman in Victorian England. And so how that works, Watson is her companion. She is an older woman who was married to a doctor. She does sort of have a love interest, but not really. She is very Sherlocky in that she doesn't have the same emotions. She still has this amazing observation skills, and then how it gets into the first book. I listened to it on audiobook, and I have to say probably the first third was a little slow. It was setting up a lot of the characters. You know, she is a fallen woman now of her own choice, so because they were trying to force her to get married and she didn't want to get married, and how she ended up with Miss Watson and then becoming Sherlock and doing Sherlocky cases, and how that works, how she maintains a front at Baker Street, and she to clients she says she's Mrs. Holmes's sister and her brother is sick, and that's how she kind of covers it. Anyways, I really, by the end of that first book, I was into it. I think there's 5 or 6 books in the series, so I waited like 2 weeks, and now I'm listening to the second book in the series, I think is The House on Belgravia. So really enjoying it. I mean, I love a murder mystery, and I love kind of the tweak on the characters, you know, that familiar Sherlock Holmes. Everyone, well, I used to read Sherlock Holmes, so I'm very familiar, and so the take on it as a woman and kind of the challenges and things that go, I like it. It's well done. Other than that, I've been just reading my normal kind of mysteries, the Jen McKinley series, the Cupcake Mysteries, what else? Some of the Dakota, I've been reading Dakota Cassidy. I'm reading a few of her series, so I've been slowly working through them. And yeah, I have a lot of series. That's the thing about a series, is you get the first book and then you like it, and then I add 12 books to my queue to read the whole series. So rather than go back-to-back series, I kind of mix them in. But I think my wish list right now in my library account is at like 58 books. So, and every so often I start a new series, and then boom, that adds a whole bunch of new ones in addition to the many series and authors I read when they come out with new books. So it's great. I'll never not have something to read, which is awesome. I already talked about my birthday plans. Oh, I did want to show you because I had them. So I am still battling moths a little bit, and I need to see in this room in particular. And it's not like a crazy moth infestation. It's not in my yarn because of where I took it, but it did get into some of my finished objects I was storing for gifts. And I just thought this was kind of interesting because, again, I went through and there were some that were bad and they just went right in the trash. And obviously I was trying to figure out, okay, has everything been infestated? And these ones I'm going to save because I just did them. This was an advent from Kirby Werby, and I knit half the ball and made a pair and then the other half. So look, kind of, except here you can see no moth damage. Apparently doesn't like the Stellina, be my guess. But I had used a contrasting gray here, the heel. You see all that? Cool. Now, to be fair, I did wash these and soak them and put them outside and shook them, and I've gone through. My plan is I'm going to basically reknit the toe, the heel, and the cuff. I'm going to rip them all out because this part is fine, and I love this. I love these stripes. So I have that on both socks. This is definitely the worst sock, and I just left it because I haven't figured out. It won't be, even though I knit these toe up, I have fixed, it's just going through and kind of like an afterthought heel, cutting in, removing the toe. Luckily I did a fish lips heel here, so it will be very easy, even though I did it in to kind of pick that up. And then obviously this was done top down. So, but I thought it was very funny that obviously these moths did not want to eat any of the Kirby Werby yarn, which maybe I should thank them for, because now I still can save the socks. I did come through and as a result air out some more. I got some more plastic bags from Amazon. I used to be really good about storing like extra knits in that, and that I didn't, kind of had it, but this I just had in a box. These ones were actually on sock blockers up here and hanging out. I think I don't get enough sun in here. They were hanging out like this and they got eaten. And it probably, you know, was one moth or two. Just constantly trying to, it seems, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But eventually I will eradicate them. So I brought that up to show you so you could see my moth problem. And then the other thing I'm going to do is kind of on my list is charity. So I have 4 mother bears that I've never mailed. I think I've had them since pre-COVID. So I'm going to get off my butt this week and do that. Put them, get them popped in the mail with some postage, some money to send them to Africa. So get those off, mainly because when I saw the moths, I'm like, oh, please tell me we didn't eat a little bit of my bear, but nothing, there's nothing. And I put them outside and everything. Yeah, we're good. Then the other thing I saw, thanks to Lola Bean, is she had sent out an email, as she does. I'm on her email list with the charity she supports. And the current one is Knit the Rainbow. And this is an organization based out of New York that collects knits, warm knits, to specifically give to the LGBTQIA youth in New York and in Chicago right now is where they're doing it. So I was like, what I really liked about this is they were taking hats, ear warmers, scarf, shawls, cowls, socks, gloves, mittens, sweater, cardigans, anything that could keep someone warm. So I'm going to go through, and it's like I just knit a few months ago a pair of socks and I know I don't want. So I'm going to put those in because they're great socks. They're just too small for me. And I have some shawls and some scarves that I've had in my gift box for years at this point. So I'm going to package them all up together and get them out in a box and feel good about that. And that's what these hats are I just knit for. So they're very colorful, which I like. Obviously, it doesn't have to be, it can be colorful, which I like. Not sometimes when you're going for charities, they want, you know, like the Siemens hat, everything had to be blue, or some other charities, they don't always want the crazy hats, but this one, I think they'll appreciate all the colors that I normally have in my charity hats. So yeah, so I'm going to do that today. I'm going to get that together and probably go to the post office tomorrow and get it mailed out. What else? Upcoming travels. So talked to you about, I went to San Diego and we just stayed in downtown San Diego for a weekend. We hadn't gone away, the two of us, and we went and had lunch with his brother. It happened to be when the Padres were playing the Dodgers in town, so there were a ton of people downtown. And then we also went to a musical in the Globe Theater at Balboa Park, which I don't know if, besides the zoo, if I'd actually ever walked around Balboa Park. So it's a beautiful little theater. It was a great musical. I forget the name of it. Basically it's, what do you call it? Like being workshopped in San Diego with the hopes that it will go to Broadway. And it was an interesting mix of Bollywood and English. The story is, you know, this boy falls in love with an Indian girl who has an arranged marriage in India and how that goes. So the first half takes place in Boston, which I really appreciated. And then the second half of the musical takes place in India. And so it was just, it was great. It was a lot of fun. And we just went and saw a matinee on Sunday and then drove back to LA afterwards. And beautiful to just walk around the park a little bit. There's so many museums there. We're going to try maybe on a future trip to hit a few more of the museums there. And then I'm getting ready in 2 weeks. I'm going to go and hang out with my friends for a week in Florida. And then from there, I'm flying up to Rhode Island, where we're going to do Thanksgiving early with the family. We're going to do it on, I think I fly up there on Saturday. We're going to do Thanksgiving on Sunday. And then my mom and I are going to take the train to New York City for 2 days. And then the rest of the family comes up on Wednesday. And we're staying there for 2 nights to watch the Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, which has been a bucket list item for the family for, I guess, a long time. I mean, we used to watch it so much when we were kids. We always said we wanted to go. And my sister just booked a room this year, and my brother's birthday this year happens to fall on Thanksgiving. So yeah, we're going to go do that. And then I'm going to fly back on the Friday from New York. So that will be fun. So I will get to break out my knits and sweaters. Still trying to decide packing because normally half of it will be in Florida. And Florida will be cooler, but definitely not New York cool. So I'm not sure. I do try to take just one small carry-on suitcase. I might actually check a bag this time. It might. I don't know. I'll have to see as I get closer. Yeah. I mean, I am going almost 2 weeks to 2 different climates. So it would be justifiable. And it's easy for me to check a bag. I just, you know, don't usually I like to be very mobile and able to change at a, adapt, especially with current, craziness in airlines, of being able to not, something gets bumped or something get canceled last minute, that your bag is with you. Excuse me. Welcome back. I just had to sneeze. So that's going on. Then I will probably be staying here for Christmas. I think I'm going to try to take some time off around Christmas to have another kind of staycation, or maybe we'll, my other plan is maybe we'll just go away for a day or two. And then I think I will be going to New York City again in February for Vogue Knitting Live. I mentioned it on my last podcast, and as expected, some friends reached out and said they would go. So I just need to get that trip arranged, get the hotel and things. Not going to really do any classes or anything like that. It's just going to be the market and being in New York City and seeing a show. So, gosh, with the trip with my mom, where I'm going to see a show, and the one I did with my girlfriends in August, and the one I do in February, I'll have been to New York City 3 times in less than a year. And considering I haven't been to New York prior to this since I think 2007, 8, it's been a while. And then 3 times in like less than a year. So it's great. I mean, New York's a great city to visit. I always thought if 2 cities that I could have lived in would have been New York and San Francisco. I just love the feel of the city. I love the walkability of the city. I love public transit. They get you places. But I ended up here in Los Angeles, which I love. I mean, if you're not aware of the story, I came out here for college. I grew up in outside of Boston in New England in Massachusetts, and came out here for college to go to University of Southern California, and never left. So I have now been here almost 30 years. Yeah, long time. I came out here when I was 17. So, and as I said, on Monday, I turned 46. Ooh, that is a long time. So that's all I have today. I hope everyone is having a wonderful fall. It feels back to normal. Obviously, COVID is still a thing. Get your shots, get your booster. I actually was just looking. I gotta wait a little bit longer since unfortunately I had it in August. But I don't feel that it is the limiting factor for a lot of people anymore. Mask up if you need to. I plan on masking up in large public places because it's definitely no fun to get sick, and I don't miss not even having colds and things like that. So there's a lot to be said for masking whenever you're in large crowds or whenever you're not feeling it. Very a la, the Asian countries that have been doing it forever. So I'm glad that we normalize mask wearing now. That's awesome. That's all I have. So I'm gonna go get started with my day. It's pretty early here. It's like 9ish, and do some of the things, get some knitting done, watch some television, some scary movies. I'm going to find some scary movies. I tend to watch them by myself because the boyfriend's not a big fan of scary movies. So I watch them by myself. Happy fall, everybody. Happy Halloween. If you celebrate it, happy birthday to anybody out there who's got October birthdays. I am a Scorpio. Love the Scorpios. Anyways, that's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit. Bye, everybody.